Hey guys, and welcome back to a brand new video. So today's video, we're going to be showing you guys how to edit your photos like Donald Boyd. Now if you don't follow him on Instagram, I thoroughly recommend going and following him. He posts some really pretty stunning photos and he's got a really unique style. So I thought it'd be a little bit of fun to try and show you guys how to edit like him. So today's video is going to be the first in my series of uploading videos for 7 days in a row. This is part of my mission to film another video which should be coming out at the end of the week, so stick around and watch that video. So this is the first video of that series. So today what I thought would be a little bit of fun would be editing a photo in JPEG as opposed to RAW. Now this is going to be quite hard because his style is very difficult to replicate as it is, and it's also quite difficult to do in JPEG because he's pushing everything to the extremes. So this is the photo we're going to be working off today. This is our reference photo that we're going to be using. It was taken in JPEG, but I think it's of a similar style to this one. It might be quite hard to try and get the exact look, but I'm going to do my best to show you guys how you can edit a photo in JPEG style to get a similar look to Donald Boyd. So we're going to be trying getting this nice pastel grey blue colour in the sky, and we're going to be trying our best to get this colour in the grass, but it may not be as easy as it looks. This is probably because we are editing in JPEG and not RAW. Then I'm also going to be trying to get this nice desaturated grey, high clarity, high contrast look in the elephants. Now I've been going through lots of his photos, and some of the photos he uses, he crushes the blacks quite a bit, as you can see here. But in some of them there's a small bit of fade, which is quite hard to see from the outset. But when you look at them, like for example this one, you can see that there is a little bit of fade going on in the shadows. So if we look down here, for example, there's some fade going on, and it is quite faded. So we are going to go for putting in a little bit of fade, which I think might work a little bit better with this photo. But obviously this photo here has, and this one has really crushed blacks, and same as this one. So he does incorporate both styles into his look, which you can make work best for the photo that you have. So without any further ado, let's jump straight into editing this photo. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start in our basics panel. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the exposure probably to about plus 0.25. This is just because it is a little bit dark and it is a JPEG file, so it would be nice to get a little bit more out of the image. Even though his photos are very contrasty, what I am going to do is go for a slightly radical move here, and I'm going to decrease the contrast to about minus 70, minus 80 I think. So we'll go to minus 75. And as you can see at the moment that's looking a little bit funny, a little bit weird, but I am going to hopefully counteract that by adjusting the shadows and the blacks. You'll see what I'm doing as I move through this edit. Okay, so what I'm now going to do is I'm going to decrease the shadows probably to about minus 30. The reason why I decreased the contrast was because I didn't want to get such a vivid looking image, so that's why I did that move. Now I'm going to change the whites, and then I'm going to go ahead and change the blacks. So with the whites I'm going to increase those so the backs of the elephants and the highlights get stand out quite a bit. Now I am going to increase that quite high, probably to about plus 60. That's simply because, again, we're editing in a JPEG, so you really want to push it as hard as you can without really blowing out the photo when you're using a JPEG. So if you're editing a RAW photo, you probably want to scale these things back a little bit. And I will release a preset pack for these as well, so you can go ahead and find this preset pack on our website. It'll probably contain about 6 presets similar to his style that you guys can go ahead and download onto your laptop or whatever, and you can use in Lightroom. That'll probably be on our website. There'll be the first link down below in the description. What I've done now is I've decreased the blacks probably to about minus 30. So if I do a quick before and after, as you can see we have a little bit of change going on. The sky is kind of a little bit brighter, like in his photo here. Quite a simple sky. Obviously we've got clouds in ours, but we're going to try and replicate it as best as we can. Okay, so he incorporates quite a bit of clarity in his photo, so I'm probably going to go for about plus 15, plus 20. Obviously work off what looks a little bit best for your image, but 15 is a good value. Now for vibrance and saturation, I'm going to bring those down a little bit, but not too much that it looks too desaturated, so probably about minus 5 for both of them, and there we go. You can see already before and after we're getting quite a nice feel to our image. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do our normal tone curve. We're going to do the S-shape one. We're going to put the 3 dots with the shadows, midtones and highlights, so we can control each of them separately. Now what we're going to do is we are going to incorporate a bit of fade. Now I think that this is going to work a little bit better for this image because, as you can see, when I crush those blacks we lose a little bit of information down here on the elephants, and it's going to look a little bit weird. So for this particular photo I'm going to increase the blacks. I'm going to put a small amount of fade. So what I'm also going to do is I'm going to probably leave the shadows. I might increase them or decrease them. I'm going to decrease them a little bit, but I might come back and change that later on. But I think decreasing them at the moment should give us a little bit more contrast. And I'm just going to increase the highlights a little bit, just bring that up a tiny bit, but not too much. Okay, so if I do before and after with the tone curve, you can see that's adding a little bit to our image already. Okay, so we're going to come down to the hue, saturation and luminance panel, and this is where most of our editing is going to come in. So the oranges are probably going to control the elephants here, so we might decrease the saturation of that a little bit later on. But the yellows, greens and blues are mainly going to be what we're going to be editing here. So the blues will be the sky, and the yellows and the green should hopefully be the vegetation. For the yellows, we're going to bring that down probably to about -50, -45, so leave that at about -44. The greens, I think probably about -25. Now this is because we're trying to get that nice orangey look to the grass. Now at the moment it's still looking pretty green, but I'm going to correct that a little bit more in the camera calibration later on. And then for the blues, I'm going to bring that down to about -25 as well, just to kind of give us hopefully that little bit of colour that he's got going on in his sky here. So as you can see, we're kind of getting a little bit closer to his image if I do it before and after. Okay, so saturation, as I said, the elephants are the orange, so I'm going to try and make this quite grey by bringing that down to probably about quite far, to about -60 I reckon. So as you can see already the elephants are looking pretty grey and standing out from the background, which is kind of what we want. I do feel like it's going to be quite hard to get them to stand out from the background because the sun is falling right on the elephants and this patch of vegetation here, and it's obviously quite bare here, so it's going to be quite hard to get them to stand out, but we're going to do our best. Okay, so in order to get the elephants to stand out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to decrease the yellow's luminance because that's most of the vegetation. I'm going to do that quite drastically, probably to about -56. And then increase the greens a little bit more to about +40 so it doesn't look a little bit strange. So hopefully the elephants will be standing out a little bit better now. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come down to our split toning panel. Now this is where hopefully we're going to be changing the colours of the vegetation a bit more. So with the shadows, I think if we bring up our saturation pretty high and we hold down Alt and we go to a nice golden colour, probably around there, and then drop the saturation down a little bit. As you can see, we're getting a little bit more of that colour into the vegetation. Now I don't want to go too far with this because it will look a little bit strange if everything is the same colour. I'm going to do the same with the highlights, just bring up the saturation and then choose a nice golden colour. Again, bring that higher so you can see what we're doing. Hold down Alt so you can see. I think there should be pretty good. Too far to the right, we get quite a bit of green in. Drop the saturation down a little bit, so if we turn that on and off, as you can see, I might bring up the shadows, the saturation up a little bit more. And there we go, you can see we're getting a little bit more of this orange into the vegetation. So if I compare this to his photo here, he has quite a drastic orange golden colour in his grass. I think that might probably be from his photo. It was a little bit more that colour, so he could probably push it better than we could. But we're going to stick with this for the time being, I think, and we might be able to push it a little bit more, but I don't want to overdo it. So we're going to leave it like that at the moment, and then we're going to come down to our detail. Now we are going to increase the sharpening, simply because he has quite a lot of detail in his photos, so we're going to increase that probably to about +30, +40, leave the radius as it is, and that should do it for that one. Finally, we're going to come down to camera calibration. Now I'm hoping with this we can really adjust the colours of the vegetation here, of the trees and the greenery. So I'm going to go a little bit mad and I'm going to bring this up to about +60 now. So you can see that's kind of giving us more of that golden colour. Okay, so I'm going to increase the green primary probably to about +40. That should just give us a little bit more on the highlights. 37, maybe a little bit more. That's looking quite nice as it is, to be honest. I quite like that look. Now I'm going to decrease the blue primary down a little bit so we can see if we can get that kind of golden look in the grass. Now as I said, this is going to be quite hard to replicate, but I'm going to do my best, and I think I'm going to leave it as that, probably to about -41. Now if I do a full photo before and after, and now if I compare that to his photo, so as you can see the colour in the sky is quite similar. We've got that similar kind of cloudy grey look. Okay, so this is the look we're getting at the moment. Now as you can see, it's looking a little bit crazy with the elephants. They've got too much contrast on them, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and select a brush tool, and we're going to go ahead and brush over the elephants and decrease the saturation to make them a little bit more grey, and increase the shadows so we haven't got this vivid so we haven't got this high contrast between the highlights and the shadows. I think if we increase the shadows, the elephant should pop out from the background a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is adjust the exposure, bring the saturation down to about -100, and open up the shadows probably to about +100. Now this is just so I can see where I'm brushing at the moment, so I can really see what's going on over the elephants. This is just going to be a quick brush over. I'll probably come back to you when I'm done. Okay, so there we go. I've now brushed over the elephants, so I am going to increase the saturation a little bit more because we don't want it to be -100 but they look completely grey, and I'm just going to drop the shadows a little bit more so they're not fully up at 100. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the clarity as well, probably quite high, just so I can get that high bit of contrast and clarity in the elephants over there. Okay, so I think we're getting quite close to his kind of style. So if we compare his look at the moment through all of these photos, and then if we compare that to our photo here, I think it could work quite nicely. I think what I might do though is close this up and come back to our tone curve. Now I said I might do this later on, but I think now is a good time to just adjust this and tweak this a little bit more. So I'm going to add a little bit more fade to this photo. And I'm going to bring up those shadows a little bit more. There we go. Now I think we're getting a little bit better look to the photo. Now as I said at the beginning, this is a very difficult color grade to go ahead and pull off on the photos. But if I do it before and after, as you can see, we are getting a little bit closer to the look that I think we can get. So the final thing I want to do is try and make these elephants stand out a little bit from the background. And I'm going to do that by using this ellipse tool. Just going to drag this over the elephants here. Now obviously this has gone completely weird because the saturation is a little bit strange, but we're just going to change that at the moment. Just bring everything back to the middle, and I'm going to click invert mask, so everything we do now is inside that ellipse. I'm going to bring up the exposure probably to about plus 0.25, 0.3, something like that. Okay, so what I might do now is just get a brush tool and drop the exposure down quite far, just so I can brush over the base down here, just so we can darken the shadows a little bit better, and hopefully make those elephants pop a little bit. So your eyes go towards the elephants and not down towards the bushes down here. So there we go. I think that's doing quite well. I might brush over this tree a little bit over here, and maybe a little bit in the background, taking care not to go too mad, but a little bit of a natural kind of vignette. Okay, so that is pretty much the edit done. If I put that into full screen now so you guys can see the photo that I've done. So there we go, that's a close edit to Donald Boyd. As you can see here, lots of his photos look quite similar to this. This is our reference photo. If we compare, we've got the nice blue in the sky here. We've also got the greys of the elephants, high contrast, sharp highlights, and quite a bit of clarity going on the elephants down here as well. We've got the grass kind of look as well, so really quite a difficult edit to do, but I'm hoping that has given you a little bit of an insight as to how you can go ahead and at least get a similar look to his photos. Now of course this was done on a JPEG file. If you had a RAW file you could probably do a little bit better than this, but I didn't want to push it too much. As you probably saw in the editing, it was looking a little bit crazy at some points, but I hope I brought it back a little bit and shown you guys how you can go ahead and at least get an approximation to his style. So as I said, we should hopefully release a preset pack for this. I'll go ahead and I'll work on a few and I'll release that on our website for you guys if you're interested. The link will be down below in the description. But thanks for watching, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave a massive thumbs up and I'll see you guys in the next one. Live long and prosper.